Need some great news? The animal you're looking at is not stuffed or an alien that just crashed on Earth. It is 100% real and from this green Earth. Meet Australia's greater glider, the largest gliding marsupial in the world. Ready to make your heart float, this Muppet-like creature is so unbearably cute. It even comes with a necessary disclaimer that it's not made by AI, but by the incredible power and creativity of evolution. So what makes an animal look like this? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. Often called flying koalas, greater gliders are known for their good looks and graceful feats, and their popularity is starting to take off. In 2024, they were named the Marsupial of the Year, beating legendary cuties like the Tasmanian Devil, the Numbat, and the Marsupial Mole. Wait, what the heck is a marsupial mole? Okay, we 1000% need to make an episode about these guys. They look like a yeti's finger that fell off and got turned into a sentient furry worm. Wild. But back to the belles of the ball, the greater gliders. Outside of Australia, most people don't even know they exist. It's time to change that, because the greater glider is endangered. In some areas, their populations have dropped a massive 80% in the last few decades. So we asked one of the world's top experts to tell us all about saving the greater gliders.
Hello, I'm Dr. Anna Grasabin, and I'm a research fellow at the Australian National University, and my research focus is on the endangered greater glider.
Dr. Grassanin spends more time around them in the wild than pretty much anyone else on Earth. And she has a very clear vision of what makes them so great.
They are just so cool, and they just look such weird, gremlin-y, Ewok, Furby-looking creature. Like, that doesn't look real. That can't be real.
But their cartoon-like ears, magical eyes, and bushy tails are the real deal. These features serve fascinating evolutionary functions, helping the greater glider see, soar, and steer their way through the treetops of eastern Australia. Endemic to the land down under, just like other adorable Aussie weirdos, like the quokka, the wombat, and the platypus, the greater glider is one of the most interesting animals on the planet. But it hasn't always gotten the credit it's due, until now. Is the greater glider the greatest glider?
I think so. I think the greatest glider is definitely the greatest glider for a number of reasons. It's the largest gliding species in Australia. We have a lot of gliding animals like sugar gliders, feather-tailed gliders, yellow-belly gliders, and they range in all different kinds of sizes and what they eat and where they are. But the greatest glider, the greater glider is the largest one of them all in Australia.
There's actually 3 separate greater glider species, all adapted to different climates in Australia. The southern glider, from the cooler forests of Victoria, is fatter. Their fur is long, with locks as long as your cell phone, and darker than the fur of its cousins. This fluffiness turns their gliding membranes into warm blankets, and they use them wrapping themselves up like a burrito. The northern glider, from the scorching hot tropical forests of far north Queensland, is tinier, less furry, and has an iconic cream-colored belly. They have smaller ears than their southern cousins, but small is a relative term when you look like Mickey Mouse. And the central glider is the middle child of the family. They're in between the other 2 species, but they stand out because of their silvery brown coat. To people in the northern hemisphere, they might look like bizarro versions of squirrels, but they're much bigger than that. At about the size of a cat, the greater glider holds the title for Australia's largest gliding animal, and is just shy of the worldwide spot at number 3. Topping the list is the giant flying squirrel, followed by the woolly flying squirrel, both found in the forests of Asia. Yeah, we'll add giant flying squirrels to the list of future episodes. The best time to see these cuties is after sunset. At night, they unleash their special powers to sail through the forest canopy. looking for the finest eucalyptus trees to both eat and nest in. In practical terms, they're kind of like gliding koalas. To glide, they use a membrane called the patagium that connects their feet to their hands. It's a feature that convergently evolved in bats, flying lizards, pterosaurs, and of course, flying squirrels. And while this gliding membrane can make them look like superheroes in the skies, it can also make the greater glider a bit bumbly on the ground.
So greater gliders are often referred to as the clumsy glider for a number of reasons. When they are on the ground, they move very clumsily because their gliding membrane attaches from their elbow rather than from their wrist. And so that means they have these awkward movements if they ever do come to the ground.
Now I can see why they stick to the treetops. Greater gliders can cruise for up to 100 meters, the length of a football field. That's more than 200 times the span of their bodies. With those stats, their frequent flyer miles must be seriously impressive. If we could glide that far, we'd be able to traverse 4 American football fields, or 2 Australian footy fields, just to have a comparison the gliders would understand. Of course, there's a reason they aren't called greater flyers. They simply can't move upwards in the air. The glider moves more horizontally and downwards, and its steering is controlled by their bushy, boa-like tails. These tails are huge, almost twice the size of their bodies. Acting like rudders, their tails help them change direction by up to 90 degrees mid-glide. Unfortunately, since they're so big, their glides aren't very efficient, and they fall 1 meter for every meter they move horizontally. Once they reach their destination, they stick their landing by shifting their body upwards to make it easier for all 4 feet to touch down on a tree trunk. Kind of like the landing gear of a plane. And can I just say, the glider achieves these feats through the magic of nature without any bodysuit enhancements. I'm looking at you, Olympic ski jumpers. But aside from being the funnest way to commute, why do gliders evolve this unique mode of transport?
There's a number of theories around why species evolve a gliding membrane and the ability to glide, and probably one of the key ones is that it's an energy efficient way to travel. Now, the greater glider eats eucalyptus leaves, which is not a nutritious source of food at all. So similar to the koala that eats eucalyptus, they have to sit and digest a lot of food to be able to get enough protein from these leaves. So because of this, they don't have the biggest energy reserves. So by being able to glide from tree to tree, it helps to reduce the loss of energy. And another theory for the development of a gliding membrane is to avoid predators so they can escape.
To avoid becoming a meal, the greater glider's been honing its acrobatic skills for around 18 million years. That's when it adapted to split off from its closest relative, the climbing ring-tailed possum, and set its sights on the skies, or at least the 100 meters of sky between large trees. Don't feel too bad for ring-tailed possums, though. They can eat a much broader diet, including leaves, flowers, and fruits. So even though they don't have as much fun gliding, they don't need to travel as much to find food. They actually have all their fun snacking. Relatable. Like other gliding animals in Australia, the greater glider evolved their aerodynamic capabilities by being forced to leap from tree to tree during a time forests were getting less dense due to changes in the climate. Walking on the ground was not an option because of predators, like the Tasmanian tiger and the Tasmanian devil. Both of these animals lived in the mainland until just about 3,000 years ago. A blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. Today, they're gone from the greater glider's habitat, but dingoes and introduced species like cats and red foxes could easily snap them up. So, soaring through the sky is relatively safer, but threats can also come from above. The main predator of the greater glider today is the powerful owl. The name might seem uninspired, but it's also very appropriate. They're the largest owl in Australia and catch prey as large as koalas. To fight back, greater gliders have become real estate tycoons. They've been recorded using up to 20 different hollow trees in a single territory. They use them at random to hide from the owl.
These are large old trees that have hollows, and they're referred to as hollow-bearing trees. And they rely on them every day for shelter. So during the day, that's when they sleep. And so they go inside of these trees, and there are these big holes, and they're often quite deep and like complex. And deep inside these trees, it's a lot cooler. And so they have a safe place to shelter, to sleep, and to stay out of the heat of the day, and to avoid predators as well.
This is why these trees are such important homes for the gliders. And if those trees disappear, the gliders are in a heap of trouble. This is just a little foreshadowing to some of the issues that gliders are facing, but we'll come back to that later. For now, since we're talking about tree hollows and nests, if you thought a full-grown greater glider was cute, you might want to sit down for what we're going to show you. A baby greater glider! This is a greater glider Joey. He still doesn't have a name, but his parents, Pip and Milo, are over the moon with him. His sibling Brimey thinks he's okay. The Joey is the mere size of a jelly bean. Unlike other marsupial babies, these little guys and gals are born blind, hairless, and underdeveloped. As it grows, it learns to groom its parents and sibling. It gets lots of cuddles. And it learns to eat the delicious eucalyptus his parents bring him. So they hang out in Mom's protective pouch for 3 to 4 months before gliding into the big leagues. Training season begins by hitching a ride on Mom's back. In the meantime, you can see the family grow by following Anna's live stream. We'll add the link in the description.
The babies hold onto their mum's back when they're really little, called back babies. Gliding species and fossil species do this a lot, so they're just hooked on tightly onto mum's fur. And then I've seen it happen. The mum jumps into the air, glides, and the baby is holding on for equid dear life, and the baby's back legs stick out, and it's kind of like gliding as well, but just holding onto mum's back as it glides. It's hard to know when will be their first glide, but yeah, they do get practice in when mum just suddenly, spontaneously leaps into the air, and they're like, oh, hold on.
If only we could all get around by hitching a ride on a furry backside. What a wonderful world it would be. I would ride it straight into the pit of despair to save our tax. If you understood that reference, it's time to start thinking about booking regular colonoscopies. Around 9 months old, these Joeys will be ready to cruise solo. And in another 1.5 years, they will have fur babies of their own. It takes about a year for them to grow into their massive ears.
There's a couple of theories around why some species develop really large ears. Yes, it can help with detecting sound better, but also with greater gliders, it can be potentially a way for them to deal with heat. So by having large ears, they can help send warm blood to their ears, and that helps the heat to escape their bodies, because they are quite heat sensitive.
The ears are adorable and also very useful. And who can't love those big, bright eyes? Described as sparkling stars, they give the greater glider pristine night vision when in search of a foliage feast. Eating a diet of fiber-rich eucalyptus leaves, the glider relies on bacterial fermentation in their gut to break them down. Koalas do this too, but unlike the gliders, they need to develop the skill by eating a special poop from their mother called pap. This gives koala joeys the microbes they need to digest the leaves that would otherwise be toxic. Ready to wash that poopy fact down with another? Greater gliders are teetotalers. They never drink. They have adapted to get all the moisture they need from the leaves that they eat. Though they leap at the chance of getting a fresh meal, these foodies won't be holding any dinner parties anytime soon. Solitary in nature, they only pair up during mating season, from March to June. These strong silent types are just that, and don't make a peep. With no distinctive call, researchers think the greater glider has other ways of making themselves heard.
We believe that one of the ways that they communicate is through scent marking, and they also just keep their ears out to hear for any other gliders, because they're quite territorial as well. And if they hear something and then they see something and they go, oh, that's a glider right territory, they're likely to go and attack them and chase them out of their home.
But just because they like their alone time doesn't mean they aren't characters. Dr. Grassanin knows firsthand from climbing up trees and having sleepovers with them.
There's like a lot of different personalities. So there are definitely gliders that do not like the disturbance, and so they bunker down and hide and go into their little side tunnels and side changes. Other times they are so oblivious to what's going on. And then there's also feisty ones. So I've done some genetic research. We've had to physically capture the animals to be able to get a small tissue sample from the edge of their ear. And when we capture them, sometimes they're just a bit like, "Oh, I've been caught. What's going on?" And other times they are lashing out with their really sharp claws and fighting hard with their really sharp incisors. So I've got a lovely scar on my eye from one bite. Then I've also got a scratch on my eye from a glider claw as well. So yeah, lots of different personalities, from very passive to very aggressive.
So, no matter how adorable they might look, or how toy-like and cuddly they actually are, please leave them alone if you ever are lucky enough to run into a greater glider. This is important because sadly, the greater glider is under threat. Remember those hollow eucalyptus trees they call home? They take hundreds of years to grow, and many of them have been destroyed by forest fires or human activity.
What's happened is, for the past 200 years, since colonization, we've had extensive land clearing across Australia, across the range of greater gliders, and that's leading to a hollow deficit. Greater gliders only typically live anywhere between 7 to 11 years in the wild, so they can't wait 100 years for a tree hollow to fall. They literally just don't have a place to live. So you have these population crashes occurring.
To make matters worse, devastating wildfires have burnt these trees that the glider and other Australian animals need to survive. In 2019-2020, one of the most catastrophic bushfires in the nation's history hit Australia, impacting or killing up to 3 billion animals. For the greater glider, almost 30% of its habitat was lost. These fires, known as the Black Summer, were a key driver of the greater glider being put on the endangered list in 2022. In human terms, 1 out of 3 houses in your city burned down. It would be a catastrophe, and even worse for gliders, they have nowhere else to go. But there is good news. Building new homes for the animals is giving hope. Dr. Grassanin and other researchers are carving out innovative new places for the glider to live.
So for a long time, conservationists used nest boxes as a way to augment systems and have more hollows, more dense spaces for these dependent species to live in. They're really nice wooden boxes that are insulated. We've put fire retardant paint on them, solar reflective paint to make sure that they stay cool. These are really high-tech boxes with all these different features to try and mimic that special habitat.
There are different teams setting up boxes in their local forests. Wildlife Queensland, for example, installs boxes at Sheep Station Creek Conservation Park and tracks visitors. They're like a nosy neighbor who knows when you leave your house, but they do it for conservation. These new homes are not only protecting our furry friends, but developing a whole new community of human friends for the glider. As more volunteers have pitched in to become carpenters, they're falling in love with this incredible animal in the process. And what do we do when we fall in love? We tell people! Shout it from the rooftops and the treetops! As more and more people take interest in the greater glider, the better chance it stands at rebounding through awareness. So what can you do to become the greater glider's wingman? If you're lucky enough to live in Australia, you can try spotting them yourself with a citizen science group and track their behavior. With more field data, we can better understand the gliders and what they need to survive. And no need to get FOMO if you live on the other side of the world. You can watch a live stream instead and watch for as long as your heart desires.
I think step 1 for the greater glider is to help put it on the map. You know, you can't protect what you don't know, so we need more people knowing that, 1, the species exists, and so there's a number of things you can do locally or remotely. So signing petitions to help end native forestry logging, signing up the Citizen Science Group to help with surveys.
The best news is, these actions don't only help the greater gliders, they help the whole forest.
They're also indicators of a healthy forest. That means that it's an old, mature forest, and these forests are generally more biodiverse, more stable, better microclimates, a whole number of factors. A mature forest has habitat complexity that allows for more biodiversity to coexist.
Though it's flown under the radar for far too long, there's no shortage of ways the greater gliders can amaze us. More observations of these 3 species means more photos. More photos means more cuteness overload. And more talk about how we can save them. So, what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching, and see ya!